Chosen one. There comes a defining moment in your life when you suddenly realize that the games people played to manipulate you no longer work. It's like you wake up and begin seeing things differently. Your eyes open to the ways in which others have tried to control you with guilt, emotional blackmail, or drama. The very things that once caused you to bend, explain yourself, or doubt your own decisions no longer have the same power. You feel an intense sense of freedom, and for the first time, you truly understand what it means to be spiritually awake to manipulation. This awakening moment is not about becoming cynical or hard-hearted. It's about becoming wise, discerning, and steady. The moment you stop needing recognition, approval, or constant validation, you step into a kind of strength that cannot be easily influenced by the whims of others. You start to recognize manipulation when it appears, whether it's disguised as concern, cloaked in guilt, or veiled in kindness. But the real turning point is that you no longer react to it the way you once did. Your inner peace becomes your strongest shield. Silence replaces panic. Instead of immediately defending or explaining yourself, you pause, breathe, and observe. You realize that not every demand on your time, energy, or attention deserves a response. You begin to understand that the emotional pressure others once placed on you to act or respond immediately is no longer your burden to carry. At first, it can feel strange, unsettling even. You may feel guilty for not reacting in the same way you once did. Perhaps you've been the one who always steps in to save others, to explain, to soothe, or to over-explain yourself in relationships. But when you wake up spiritually, you stop falling for these emotional traps. You stop feeling responsible for how others feel or behave. You stop tolerating manipulative behavior, especially when it seeks to control your peace or distort your true intentions. When you stop needing the approval or validation from others, you become free. You are no longer moved by guilt trips. You stop bending for people who don't respect your boundaries. Instead of questioning yourself or your decisions, you trust your inner voice. You recognize manipulation for what it is, and you protect your peace with confidence, without feeling guilty. This awakening moment is powerful because it shifts your entire way of relating to the world. It's not about becoming cold or indifferent toward people. It's about learning how to see through the tactics that have been used to control you, and then responding with calm, clarity, and truth. You've learned that compassion does not mean being a doormat, and caring for others doesn't require sacrificing your own peace. This is a wisdom that God gives, a kind of spiritual discernment that allows you to protect yourself without becoming hard-hearted. When God awakens this part of you, it's as though He sharpens your ability to detect when you're being manipulated, and He empowers you to protect your energy, your focus, and your peace. This spiritual awakening doesn't happen overnight. It's the culmination of many lessons and experiences that have slowly built up your sense of discernment. You've been through enough situations that required you to tune in to your inner voice, your sense of truth, and now that voice is stronger than ever. No longer do you feel guilty for protecting your boundaries or your energy. You no longer feel responsible for solving everyone's emotional problems or carrying their burden when they ask for it. You've learned the difference between being a helper and being a doormat. And as you awaken, something inside you becomes deeply steady. You stop being moved by emotional blackmail, guilt, or fear. You start standing firm, saying no when needed, and learning to trust your gut instincts without over-explaining yourself. This sense of self-protection does not come from a place of coldness, but from wisdom. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You simply need to set them. Your peace becomes your guide. You trust God to show you who is aligned with your purpose and who is seeking to distract you from it. The truth of your purpose begins to shine brighter than the pull of other people's emotional games. You stop reacting to what others expect of you. Instead, you move in the direction that aligns with what God has called you to. And when you do, you find that the more you stand in your truth, the less power manipulation and emotional pressure have over you. The game that used to control you no longer works, because you are no longer playing it. Instead, you are living by God's will, guided by His wisdom, and at peace with your boundaries. This is the moment of awakening, when you realize that you can't be manipulated anymore. When that truth settles deep in your heart, you stop looking for outside validation, and you start walking forward in quiet strength, knowing that your worth, your purpose, and your peace come from something far greater than the approval of others. And that is the moment when the real power of your life begins to unfold. Chosen one, as you begin waking up to the fact that manipulation no longer has a hold on you, you start noticing some significant changes in how you engage with the world around you. These changes are not always loud or dramatic. In fact, they often appear quietly, but they are undeniable. The first sign that you're moving beyond manipulation is that you stop reacting emotionally. When you were still caught in the trap of seeking approval, it was easy to get swept away by emotional pressure. Someone could guilt trip you, use emotional blackmail, or subtly play on your insecurities, and you would react quickly, trying to please, defend, or explain yourself. But when you wake up spiritually, the response changes. You don't panic or respond immediately to emotional manipulation. Instead, you develop the ability to pause. Silence becomes your shield, not your surrender. In the face of pressure, your first instinct is no longer to react or jump into the emotional turmoil. You simply observe. You step back and let your peace guide your response. You realize that you don't have to explain yourself or justify your decisions to anyone. You trust your own discernment and wait for clarity before speaking or acting. This shift is incredibly freeing because you stop living in reaction mode. The energy you used to expend trying to please others or manage their emotions is now redirected toward maintaining your own peace. Your boundaries become more defined, and instead of feeling responsible for everyone's feelings, you focus on what is truly yours to manage. You begin to recognize that silence is often the strongest response, especially when emotional manipulation is at play. The second side of awakening is your ability to see through gaslighting and guilt trips. Gaslighting is a tactic where people try to make you question your own reality, and guilt tripping is the manipulation that makes you feel responsible for someone else's emotions or problems. In the past, these tactics may have caused you to doubt yourself, twist your mind into believing that your feelings were invalid, or make you feel like you were responsible for fixing someone else's emotional state. But when you awaken spiritually, you start recognizing these tactics as they happen. Gaslighting no longer works because you trust your own perception of events. You stop believing their lies, and you start trusting your intuition. When someone tries to manipulate you with guilt, you no longer feel compelled to take on their burden. You realize that it's not your job to manage someone else's feelings or to make them feel comfortable at your own expense. Instead of questioning your reality, you remain grounded in your truth. You start seeing these manipulative tactics for what they are, attempts to control your energy and emotional state, and you stop reacting to them. Another key sign that you've awakened is that you stop sacrificing your peace for the comfort of others. You stop bending to accommodate people who do not respect your time, your energy, or your values. In the past, you may have felt like you had to give more than you had, overextend yourself, or bend your boundaries just to keep the peace or avoid conflict. But now, you understand that your peace is invaluable. You realize that you are not called to be everyone's emotional support system. You are not responsible for fixing other people's problems, carrying their emotional baggage, or constantly giving to relationships that drain you. This awakening leads to an incredible sense of freedom, because you no longer feel guilty for saying no or setting limits. Instead of sacrificing your own peace to keep others comfortable, you choose to prioritize your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. You recognize that when you protect your peace, you are better equipped to help others in healthy, balanced ways, not from a place of depletion, but from a place of overflow. But awakening doesn't stop at recognizing manipulation. It shifts how you engage with it. You no longer feel the need to argue, defend yourself, or get drawn into the emotional games others try to play. You now have the strength to stay grounded in your truth without being pulled into their chaos. You are no longer a participant in the drama, and because of that, people begin to realize that the emotional levers they once had on you no longer work. They begin to see that they can't get a reaction from you, and they can't make you bend to their will anymore. The relationships that were once based on manipulation, guilt, or emotional control begin to fall away naturally. And in their place, you make room for connections that are based on mutual respect, understanding, and support. This awakening brings with it a sense of peace that is unshakable. You've learned to stop chasing approval and to stop allowing others to pull you into emotional turbulence. You understand that your worth, your peace, and your energy are yours to protect, and you stop allowing people to trespass in areas where they have no right to be. You become more attuned to the signs of manipulation when they appear, but you also become wiser about how to deal with them. You no longer feel guilty for setting boundaries. Instead, you embrace them as an essential part of protecting your energy and staying true to your purpose. You are no longer driven by the need to please or perform for others. Instead, you walk with quiet confidence, knowing that God's approval is all you need to stay aligned with your true path. Chosen one. Once you wake up to the fact that manipulation no longer has control over you, you begin seeing the tactics people used to influence you more clearly. Manipulation takes many forms, but at its core, it is about control. The manipulator wants something from you, whether it's your time, your energy, your compliance, or your approval. They often mask their true intentions with kindness, concern, or false affection. But the goal is always the same: to get you to act in ways that benefit them without considering your well-being. One of the most common tactics used by manipulators is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which someone tries to make you question your own reality. They twist your words, deny what they said, or make you feel like you're overreacting, even when you know something is wrong. "That never happened," they might say, or "You're being too sensitive," or "You're just overthinking it." The goal here is to make you doubt your perception of events, to make you second-guess yourself until you're unsure of what's real. They do this because they want to maintain control over the narrative. If they can convince you that your reality is wrong, they can steer your actions and thoughts in their desired direction. But once you awaken, you stop falling for this tactic. You begin trusting your own intuition and perception again. When you sense something is off, you no longer question yourself. You recognize gaslighting for what it is: a tool to manipulate you into submission. Another tactic manipulators often use is emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail occurs when someone uses your feelings or love for them as leverage to get you to do what they want. "If you loved me, you would," or "You're the only one who understands me." These phrases are meant to create guilt, making you feel responsible for their emotional state or for solving their problems. The manipulator attempts to make you feel like you have no choice but to act in their favor, because if you don't, it will reflect poorly on your relationship or their feelings for you. The goal here is to make you feel so guilty that you act out of obligation instead of your own will. But when you wake up spiritually, you begin to see these attempts clearly. You recognize that their emotions are not your responsibility. You understand that love does not demand sacrifice at the cost of your peace, time, or personal values. You stop falling into the trap of guilt and begin standing firm in your boundaries. Another form of manipulation comes in the shape of passive-aggressive behavior. This is when someone hides their true feelings behind a mask of niceness, pretending to be helpful or concerned, while actually undermining you in subtle ways. They may disguise insults as jokes, or offer help that comes with strings attached. For example, someone might say, "I was just trying to help, but I guess I'm the only one who cares." Or, "I'm only saying this because I care about you." These words may sound sweet on the surface, but underneath, they carry hidden manipulation. The manipulator makes you feel as if you owe them something in return for their so-called kindness, subtly controlling the dynamic of the relationship. You are meant to feel grateful for their help, even if it's not in your best interest. This behavior is especially dangerous because it's hard to confront. The manipulator hides behind politeness, making it difficult for you to call out the behavior without seeming rude or ungrateful. But once you wake up to this tactic, you no longer fall for it. You begin seeing the hidden agendas behind the kindness and reject the manipulative framework that was once used to control you. The final tactic manipulators use is boundary testing. They push limits to see how much you'll tolerate. They ignore your no or test how much of your time, attention, or energy they can take before you finally push back. These tests are often subtle, small requests that slowly grow larger or more frequent over time. They may ask for favors repeatedly, disregard your boundaries, or demand more than you can give. The goal is simple: to see how much control they can gain over you without you even noticing. Manipulators rarely want your best interests at heart. They want control. They will push, prod, and poke at your limits until they've successfully blurred your boundaries enough to exploit them. The more you say yes, the more they feel entitled to ask for. But when you wake up, you realize that the manipulations are not about your value. They are about the manipulator's need to control you. You stop falling for their subtle testing. You learn to set clear boundaries and enforce them with confidence, knowing that your peace and your purpose are non-negotiable.
The key to handling these tactics is recognizing that they are not about you, they are about control. Manipulators rarely have your best interests in mind. They want to use you to fulfill their own needs. But when you awake to this reality, you stop engaging with their tactics. You don't play the game anymore. You move through life with clarity, grounded in your truth, and firmly protected from the manipulation that once threatened to pull you off course. When you recognize these tactics, you stop reacting. You stop giving in to guilt, emotional pressure, or passive-aggressive behavior. Instead, you respond with discernment, wisdom, and the strength that comes from knowing that your peace and purpose are yours to protect. Chosen one. Now that you recognize the tactics of manipulation for what they are, the next step is learning how to respond. This is where the wisdom God provides becomes essential. God's strategy does not call you to fight manipulation with manipulation, nor does it suggest that you should wrestle in the mud with those who attempt to control or influence you. Instead, God's strategy invites you to remain grounded in His truth and wisdom. This is not about outsmarting or overpowering others. It's about remaining rooted in your own identity, protected from the tactics that seek to distract or derail you. One of the first keys to staying grounded is using discernment to detect manipulation without engaging with it. Discernment allows you to notice what is happening around you without allowing it to trigger an emotional response. Instead of getting caught up in the drama or reacting to emotional pressure, you simply observe. When you feel an attempt at manipulation, notice it for what it is, but do not absorb it. You do not need to defend yourself, explain your actions, or react to every emotional outburst. Instead, take a step back and rely on God's peace to guide you. His peace will help you identify what is false in the moment and remain steady in your response. It's not your job to convince others of your truth or to fix the emotional chaos they bring to you. Your job is to stay aligned with God's wisdom and move through life with clarity. This process takes practice. The world often tries to pull you into conversations, debates, or dramas that demand emotional responses. But when you rely on God's peace to protect your discernment,
you begin seeing manipulation for what it is, and you stop being drawn into the cycle of emotional reaction. The next key to staying grounded is learning to set firm, clear boundaries. Boundaries are not about hurting or rejecting others. They are about protecting what God has placed in your life. When you set boundaries, you are declaring what you will and will not tolerate, what is healthy and what is not. For many chosen ones, this becomes one of the most freeing aspects of spiritual growth. When you can say no without explanation or guilt, you reclaim your energy and your peace. You stop explaining, defending, or justifying your decisions. A simple no is enough. You do not need to justify your decisions to anyone who does not respect your boundaries. This may be difficult at first, especially if you're used to accommodating everyone else's needs. But as you grow in understanding of your purpose and your worth, you realize that your no is not a rejection of others, but a protection of your God-given peace. Your boundaries aren't there to hurt anyone else. They are there to preserve the work God has called you to do. They protect your focus, your energy, and your ability to stay aligned with your divine purpose. When you learn to set boundaries firmly, you remove the influence of manipulative behavior over your life. People who truly respect you will understand your limits and adjust. Those who do not respect your boundaries will expose themselves, showing you that they are not aligned with your purpose. Either way, setting boundaries is a powerful act of self-preservation and spiritual alignment. Another essential part of God's strategy is to respond with calm, not frustration. Frustration often comes when we feel misunderstood, controlled, or manipulated. But reacting with frustration feeds the cycle of manipulation. Instead, God calls us to respond with short, neutral phrases that protect our peace while still communicating our stance. For example, "I'm not available for this," or "I'm focused on my peace," are simple but effective ways of responding. These kinds of responses are not about being passive or avoiding confrontation. They are about choosing to maintain your inner peace over engaging in unnecessary conflict. The power lies in your ability to keep your responses brief, clear, and non-emotional. When you stop reacting emotionally, you stop feeding the emotional energy that manipulation thrives on. People who attempt to manipulate you with guilt, pressure, or emotional blackmail will find that their tactics no longer work when you respond with calm certainty. Your peace becomes the strongest response you can give, and the manipulation loses its power. Finally, one of the most important aspects of staying grounded in God's strategy is trusting that He is handling what you cannot. You don't have to fight every battle yourself. When people try to manipulate or control you, remember that it's not your job to control them back. It's not your job to correct every lie or set every misunderstanding straight. God's strategy for you is to trust Him to fight the battles you don't need to engage in. He will reveal the truth in His time, and He will protect you as you remain aligned with His will. The more you let go of the need to control or fix the situation, the more peace you will experience. Trust that God is handling the things that you cannot, and you will find a deep sense of freedom. Your confidence comes not from your ability to control others, but from your trust in God's timing and His ability to defend your purpose. When you let God fight your battles, you stop fighting yourself. You release the emotional burden of trying to control or change other people, and you allow your life to unfold according to God's plan. In conclusion, the key to staying grounded and protected from manipulation lies in your ability to stay focused, set clear boundaries, respond with calm, and trust that God is handling what you can't. As you grow in discernment and wisdom, manipulation loses its grip over you, and you become a stronger, clearer version of yourself. Your peace becomes a powerful weapon, and your life begins to flow with greater clarity and purpose. When you stop reacting emotionally, you start moving with intention,
And when you are grounded in God's truth, no manipulation can shake you. Chosen one, when you stop being manipulated, a profound transformation takes place that few can truly comprehend. It's not just about recognizing manipulation. It's about reaching a point where those attempts no longer affect you. The moment you stop needing to be controlled by anyone's approval or emotional pressure is when you step into true freedom. And this freedom, chosen one, is untouchable. You are no longer moved by the guilt trips or emotional blackmail that used to shape your choices. You stop accommodating people who don't respect your boundaries, and instead, you hold your peace firm no matter the situation. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being clear, grounded, and unwavering in who you are and the purpose God has called you to. The game of manipulation becomes irrelevant because you no longer need to play it. People may still try their tactics on you, but they find that they no longer work. Your response to manipulation becomes like water to stone. It no longer sticks. When you stop needing to prove yourself, when you stop adjusting your actions to win others' favor, the strings that others used to control you with lose their power. And in that freedom, you begin to walk with confidence, knowing that your worth isn't determined by someone else's opinion. That confidence is the key to your untouchable freedom. You are free because you know that God's approval is the only one that matters. You no longer need to measure your life by applause or comparison. You simply live aligned with His purpose for you, and that gives you an unwavering strength. The freedom you've stepped into doesn't come from forcing people to accept you or convincing them that your path is right. It comes from understanding that you are walking in God's will, and His approval is all the confirmation you need. This is the moment where you stop being influenced by the chaos and distractions of others. Your peace is not fragile anymore. It doesn't depend on what people think of you or how much they praise you. It is anchored in something far more stable: God's purpose for your life. The moment you realize that your worth isn't dependent on recognition is the moment you become truly dangerous to the systems of control, comparison, and manipulation. These systems, built on approval and status, lose their influence when you step out of the cycle. You are not drawn into the emotional highs and lows that the world tries to push you into. You stop competing for space, for recognition, and for validation. And in that stillness, you find your true strength. Your power no longer comes from fitting in or adjusting to the whims of others. It comes from being secure in who God made you to be. You are no longer at the mercy of people's approval or judgment. You can hold your ground without the need to prove anything. You can move with calm assurance because you know your identity is solid, built on the foundation of God's truth rather than the fleeting praise of others. This freedom allows you to be who God has called you to be without compromise. It's not about being selfish or indifferent. It's about being so deeply grounded in your purpose and in God's love for you that nothing can sway you. This is the kind of strength that is unshakable. When you move from this place of grounded peace, you will find that people around you begin to respect you more, not because you demand respect, but because they recognize the unmovable steadiness in your spirit. This is not a respect born from fear. It's born from the clarity and confidence that comes when you stop seeking approval and start living out your calling. The more you are rooted in God's truth, the more people will see that they can't manipulate you, change you, or make you act against your values. You become someone whose words and actions carry weight because they are aligned with something much greater than public opinion. And in that alignment, you become untouchable. The tactics that once controlled you no longer work because you are no longer playing the same game. Your peace becomes your strength, and your ability to stand firm in your boundaries becomes a shield against the manipulation of others. The beauty of this untouchable freedom is that it is not defensive. It is empowering. You don't need to fight back against the world's tactics. You simply need to stay true to who you are and let God handle the rest. When you allow God to fight the battles that you don't need to engage in, you stop fighting yourself. You no longer feel the need to explain, defend, or justify your actions to anyone. You simply stand firm in the truth of who you are and move forward with God's guidance, trusting that He will fight for you.
This is true freedom. The freedom to move quietly with purpose, to stay grounded in your values, and to remain untouchable to the forces that once tried to pull you off course. As you walk this path, you'll find that your peace becomes more intimidating to manipulation, and your presence becomes a quiet force of strength that cannot be shaken. You are free from the emotional pull of others, free from the cycle of approval and rejection, and free to walk boldly in the calling God has placed on your life. So, if you recognize that freedom in your life, if you're ready to move forward without needing anyone's approval, comment "untouchable" as a declaration that you are stepping into the strength and peace that God has designed for you. And if you want more messages about living in freedom, protection, and God's elevation in your life, subscribe and continue to walk this journey with confidence, knowing that you are aligned with God's truth and untouchable by the world's manipulation.